And we're live. Can you hear us now, Sarah?
Hear you?
No, she can't hear us.
No. Wait, give it a second. Give it a second.
Okay, we're going to give it a second. It is Sunday, December 13th, 2020, 5:03 p.m. We are late because Taylor Swift's motorcade took a little while to show up.
I can hear you.
Did it come through?
So
See,
I can hear you now.
Tomas Ilves
excellent.
Things. Yes.
So our mystery guest is, of course, Taylor Swift. She's just disguised as Sarah Longwell right now.
Better looking.
What a letdown for people.
No.
No.
This is great, Taylor, because we've convinced people that Taylor Swift is going to be on the show, and that means more people are going to hear from you. It's going to be great. It is 5:04 p.m. and I have an important update on the Pineapple Gate situation with Room Raider.
That's hilarious.
So this morning I woke up to a text from one Kate Klonick informing me that Room Raider had offered to buy me a pineapple.
That's
and
not
I said
actually
to my,
what the text said. The text said pumpkin because my phone auto-corrected, and then it
yeah,
went to
that's
pineapple.
true. But I was correcting for the autocorrect because Room Raider would never offer to buy me a pumpkin. So I of course assumed that Kate was joshing me, but I looked at my Twitter feed, and in fact, Room Raider claimed to have ordered on Etsy a wooden pumpkin because he, she, it,
Not pumpkin,
or they...
pineapple.
A pineapple. Because he, she, it, or they had concerns about the show yesterday where I said that the pineapple juice was dripping, which of course it was, in rather small quantities from the battle axe embedded in the actual pineapple. So, I tweeted something witty like, ha 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 ha.
That's not witty.
Yeah, I'm being self-mocking there, Kate Klonick.
Okay.
Not self-aggrandizing. That would be mocking the self. And I then tweeted that I assumed this was a joke because Room Raider would never do my background for me. That's not the way Room Raider operates. Room Raider responded with a receipt from Etsy. In fact, proving that he, she, or it, or they had in fact ordered a wooden pineapple for me. So this pineapple is hereby dubbed temporary pineapple, which is good because it'll take about as long to rot as it will for the wooden pineapple from Room Raider to arrive. I have also, I don't think you can see it, but I have also planted a creeping vine to climb up the wall and envelop the cannons, the Bob Mueller puppet, the battle axe, and the pineapple. And so we have, in cooperation with Room Raider, we are developing the ultimate ridiculous background for you. We're not allowed to have fun anymore. In lieu of fun, I can't even tell you we have Taylor Swift here, but we have Sarah Longwell, with whom we have much more to talk about than we would with Taylor Swift, whom I wouldn't know if I tripped over her walking down the street. Hello, Sarah Longwell.
Hey,
she
guys.
seems to have a new album out, so everybody's talking about her.
It's actually makes me very happy to see you.
I missed you too.
Oh, who do I want to talk to? And I was like, can we have Tim Miller and Sarah Longwell? And I was like, yes, it's my mystery guest. I can do whatever I want. Tim isn't coming, but Sarah's
So I owe an
ask
apology to Sarah Longwell about
Yes,
Tim
you
Miller.
do.
And I
Yes,
want to
you
tell
do.
you, I want to explain the circumstances.
What?
So that even you will agree that it was actually not inappropriate to exclude you from the game show. Okay. So
Sure.
when somebody in the audience tweeted that we should have Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller on, I quipped that I wanted to sponsor a game show with Tim Miller. And Sarah, quite reasonably, having been excluded from this thread at this point, tweeted something like, "What the fuck am I, chopped liver?"
Yes, good.
I tweeted a GIF. that says, "I'm standing right here."
Yeah, okay, fair enough. It's the same idea. So, I want to say this was not a slight, as much as Tim Miller lorded it over you.
He did.
He did. So I have been thinking that what the world needs, and I did subsequently suggest this to Tim on the phone, is a podcast, live cast like in Lieu of Fun, to go head to head with Love It or Leave It, with Tim Miller as the head, and it would be a combination of comedy, monologue, and game show. And I've been meaning to talk to Tim Miller about this for like 6 weeks, because I think there's a hole in the market, and Love It, in addition to the fact that he continues to dodge an appearance on In Lieu of Fun to debate me about time reform, different subject, very important. He is just not that funny on Love It or Leave It these days. And I think, and he's also playing to a political base right now, like the woke staff at Crooked Media. And I think there is like a yawning hole for Tim to come in with a sort of game show, comedy show, live audience kind of thing, using Crowdcast, this kind of technology that we do, and basically kick his ass. And for reasons that you, better than anyone else, will understand, that has a certain appeal.
None of this is making me feel better. Like, this is all like, all you're doing is reiterating, I think Tim is funny and great, and I think we should do a show with him. That's the end of this. That's my thing. I don't know if you realize
I'm either, Sarah.
Yeah, but I'm 100% funnier than Tim.
Oh,
like,
really?
I think I don't know what about his nasal, long-haired, woke-stery thing.
Wait a minute. I think of you as earnest and capable of being funny.
No.
But you're basically earnest.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stand for me, Kate.
Oh, come on.
No. Sarah's hilarious. I have laughed so hard. Sarah is dry.
Sarah is very funny. Sarah is very funny. But her fundamental point of view is that when John VL, I don't know what the V stands for, Jonathan
Victor.
Last. Victor? When Jonathan Victor Last says, there's no hope for the Republic, Sarah will defend the integrity until it is proven otherwise of the last standing Republican, and occasionally get it right.
I see. So this is a show. So you want a show for people without standards.
I want a show that is as savage about everybody, that is vicious.
Tim is a petty bitch, Sarah. Don't feel bad about it.
That's true. If that's true, listen, if you're looking for the equivalent of like drag show brunch and just like roasting people, if that is your idea of funny, that's fine. But if you want something elevated, wry, that's whatever. That's what I'm here for. But it's fine. It's not everybody's milieu.
So maybe I've misconceived this. Maybe we need like the Tim Miller savage everybody, and then like a little bit of elevated sentimental humor from Sarah.
Yeah. You always need that, because the rye gets old, but the staying power, the GIF or GIF making power, however you pronounce it, your God is your own, your Jod is your own. Like, that is...
Like, that was funny.
See that right now? No one asks me to be on their shows, and I don't even try. So
it's funny.
But Sarah is like, Sarah and Tim, like, listen, like the Sarah Scott thing was so good because Scott,
that was fabulous.
Because Sarah stuck
but
to
Sarah
her game
was
and
Carl
had to be the straight man.
Reiner to Scott's Mel Brooks. I mean, that was like ultimate. I got a text in the middle of it from John Roush. Scott is the funniest person I've ever seen, and Sarah is by far the best straight man I've ever seen.
So rare that gets said.
It's just like, what was that? What that wasn't George Burns and like what was his wife's name? See, no one remembers the wife. That's such bullshit.
Ooh,
but like
Petra.
wait,
in the
no,
chat.
I really want to know who is George Burns' wife.
I don't know. He
George
must have
Burns had
outlived
a
her
dual
by like
act.
50 years.
Gracie. Yes, Gracie. That was right. He had like a line too that was like, "Hey Gracie, this," and like she would be the straight man, and like it was to everything, and like they're forgotten, but they're so clutch. You have to be able to deliver the lines, and like, but you're not even just the straight man, Sarah. Like the fun about the straight man is that like every once in a while they have like the zinger line. They have like yeah.
But maybe
now the entire chat is Gracie Ellen. Got it. Yeah, I
but
know.
maybe the Bulwark needs a comedy show.
Maybe. It needs a great many things. But if we were gonna do something that was funny, I'm just telling you, I think I've been typecast as the earnest, like just my earnest blinds you.
Your
Yeah.
half zip up sweater.
It's you're not
Like,
dressed in
all I
Bannon
own.
today.
All I own is just like a series of multicolored half
I mean, if it makes you
zips.
feel better, no one is asking Steve Bannon to be on
Steve,
their
can I just say
podcast.
Steve Bannon, not funny.
Not funny.
It's
Do
like
we know that for certain?
no, because like even like there are these people in the Trump administration who are really not funny, like Bill Barr.
Bill Barr's
Not
funny?
funny.
He's not funny.
No, I don't think he's funny.
So what does he do at parties?
Steve Mnuchin, it's got a little bit of funny.
Does he just like suck the fun out?
I don't know, but
he
like
have, like,
Steve
any
Bannon is
personality?
really not funny. I think he thinks he's funny.
Steve Bannon does?
Yeah, with the clothes and the
With
shit,
the face?
and like
Yeah.
hiding out on the
Sorry,
Chinese
that was a dig in his terrible
like
face.
oligarch's yacht.
You know, since we're just talking about clothing, Kate, is that a kerchief you have just arranged around your neck?
Okay, that was funny.
That is true. Okay, go fuck yourself.
Is that a
It's
mask? Oh, it's a mask. It's your I'm gonna rob a liquor store but protect your health thing.
That's exactly what it is. I actually went into the liquor store like this, saying that. I was like, give me everything. Actually, I would like to pay you some money for this 6-pack of Narragansett.
All right,
yeah.
so here's my
True.
question.
I'm Billy
to-
the Kid.
You know, just like on our show, everyone hates the banter. They want to get into the talk.
Oh, really?
This
I mean, it was
show
just
is
it was just
all
it was just
banter.
Banter is the
it was just one it was just one guy. It was one guy.
By the way, I have a banter comment to make.
Yeah.
I
It was all
actually
banter.
saw a member of the In Lieu of Fun audience in real life today.
How did they
IRL.
recognize you?
It was an IRL moment, and it was John. It was John Bordeaux.
No! You're kidding
Yeah,
me.
I saw John Bordeaux in real life today, and he gave me 2 bottles of filibuster whiskey, one rye, and I made a old fashioned with them today in an In Lieu of Fun rocks glass, which he also gave me, and
Oh, damn it. You're
and-
ruining my Christmas presents, John Bordeaux.
it was awesome. It was awesome, and the only reason I do not have the cassis rye old fashioned that I made on the show today is that I drank it before the show started, and so the glass is empty.
You know, I am painfully aware of the fact that I'm way more through my drink than I thought I would be this early on, so that I may need to take a break in the middle and go refresh.
We do that.
You do that. That's okay on the show.
Yeah,
Well-
we do that.
I don't,
So-
I mean, I frequently, actually, kind of, work my way through, multiple, drinks through the show. I'm a nervous drinker, as it turns out. Not alcohol, necessarily, but, anything. I will, be sipping things, and they, end quickly. It's a thing. I
So
don't know.
here is my key question, Sarah Longwell, that I think is bothering the entire audience right now. what have you been up to other than stressing about the attempted coup?
I hope you
for the
haven't
last
been stressing.
4 weeks.
I hope you've been relaxed.
Like, what happens to Sarah Longwell now?
Yeah.
Like, if you were a Democrat, you would
Now
be
she's
frantically
really gonna
sending
have to
your
go get a
resume
drink.
around trying to, join the White House staff.
That I'm not doing.
Right. You're not doing that. You're,
You don't say.
you're not, like, I don't think you're being signed up to work a bunch of coming Republican campaigns.
No.
No. So what happens to you now? Are you, other than doing a game show with me and Tim Miller?
That's why I was so upset that you weren't asking me. I need a future. What am I doing? I got nothing going on. Yeah, honestly, I've been more busy post-election than I was even pre-election, and it is because, like, the Terminator, this guy just won't stay down. And so, all weekend, I have been dealing with a bunch of people who are like, well, what are we going to do about the 126 Republicans who basically just were like, tick, democracy, I don't care about it anymore. Like, I think that what's happened is when people want to do something about Republicans behaving badly, they sort of look at me and say, well, what can we do about these Republicans behaving badly? And so, and there's been literally nothing but Republicans behaving badly since the election ended. And so it's been an endless, and I will tell you, especially, the 3 weeks or so after the election where there was a lot of questions. Ben, you must have been dealing with a lot of this, because at Lawfare, where people are like,
yeah,
what happens next? Like, can he do this? Is this legal? Like, can this happen? And so, I think people now have hit like a DEFCON level where they understand, like, Joe Biden's going to be sworn in, but that doesn't mean that Donald Trump can't do an enormous amount of damage in the interim, and then even going forward. I mean, I'm going to talk about this some on the Secret Pod, but if anybody watches some of the Bulwark live streams, I've been a little despondent. I've been, for my normal cheery self, optimism is my brand, but I haven't been that optimistic, and part of it is, I think that I always was sure, I always was like, yeah, of course Donald Trump doesn't go away. He starts his TV station or his, whatever that he's bilking everybody, old ladies out in $99.99 a year for. But the idea of him, like, really running again, which I guess is, and, like, him, and a lot of it has to do with, like, just how the election ended up. I haven't been on since the election, but I always said, and this became at some point pretty conventional wisdom, that, like, if there needed to be a thorough repudiation of Trump and Trumpism in order for there to be this opportunity for, like, a battle for the soul of the Republican Party. But, like, that ended real quick. Like, that battle is over. There was, for those of us who thought, like, well, maybe it's important to have a center-right party in this country. How are we going to take it back from a Trump rump? The guy's been just repudiated. Like, that's just, like, that's all off the table. And so it's been a lot of trying to, and you know what? It's actually been I had, like, a bunch of reporters call me up to be like, what's next for the Never Trumpers? Like, that was, like, a series of stories there for a little bit. And
that felt like that was destined to happen, by the way.
Yeah, but, like, some of them,
like, knew that was going to happen. Like,
totally, but they would ask me, like,
by the way, your volume is really low.
Is it? Okay, I'll futz with it and see if I can turn it up. But go ahead, Sarah, keep talking.
Well, they would also say, like, are you somebody asked me, like, are you depressed now that you don't have, like a reason for being? Like it was sort of this, like,
were you depressed before you had a reason for being?
It was sort of like, isn't it a
stupid question?
It was like sort of an intense existential question, because it was like, well, you've had this thing you're trying to do for a really long time. You did it. It's done. Like, now what? Like, how are you feeling on the inside? And at the time I was like, this is a stupid question. Obviously I'm doing lots of things like this. I sort of whatever. But then later I was like, you know what? Actually, it is a lot easier to be like, what am I doing right now? I am focused on defeating Donald Trump. The next stage, when you're like, democracy is, it was one thing, it was on the ballot, now it's just like ethereal, like you have to save it. Like it is under grave assault in a way that is constant and relentless, and you feel like you just did this thing where you're like, this should be the end point, and actually what it is like you've got to ramp yourself up to be like, nope, we're like just getting started here, like, and I think that is a little exhausting because you want it to be less
you want
like
it to be a climactic moment that once you have it, you've won. And what it actually is a climactic moment that, first of all, took a week and a half. So it wasn't quite as climactic as it felt like it should be. And once you have it, what you actually have is the opportunity to keep fighting.
It's more work. Yeah, it's just like, well, what's next? Well, it's just like more of this. And it's not just this one guy. It's actually like, it's a problem of voters. It's a problem with the right-wing media ecosystem, which is fracturing and getting more difficult to deal with. And much of it spinning off into an oblivion of election trutherism. And when people look at you and say, well, what do we do about this? The hard part is being like, I mean, well, does everybody, just take these 126 Republicans. I mean, there's a bunch of things you could do. You could primary them. Is everybody ready to start fighting for 2022 right now? Like, do you dump money on their heads and try to wedge off sensible Republicans from the election truthers so that those people sort of, you continue to accelerate the problem that these Republicans have with the suburbs? Maybe, but that also doesn't feel like a now thing. It's like, what do you do in the short term? And so I think I'm actually, when you say your question, like, what are you doing with yourself? I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to constructively tackle what is a massive problem.
But can I also say that is my sound better now, by the way, Ben?
No.
Huh. Okay.
I mean, your sound is okay. It's just
I can hear you okay.
You sound far away and you're very quiet.
It's very weird. I'm like trying to reset my sound levels and it's not accepting it for some reason. But anyway, what I was going to say and try to like talk up was that like basically like it sounds to me like a lot like, and this struck me also while you were giving a lot of your talks around like the focus groups that you were doing, Sarah, but like it really seems to me that you should align yourself, and it would be a very useful thing to align yourself with a team of like social scientists, probably like political scientists, that could use someone like you who has an expertise in like doing the type of focus group research that you've done in the past. And that you've like really specialized in doing. I don't think, by the way, that is your sweet spot for like the long term, but that is your sweet spot for the intervening year before elections ramp back up. Does that make sense at all? Like,
so, Kate, before you answer that, Sarah, I'm gonna remove you from the screen and bring you back in, Kate.
I'm gonna refresh too.
Corrects the sound.
Okay, sure.
Okay. It's all you, Sarah.
Oh, great. Well, now Kate's gone, and I just have to respond to her sort of professional advice. I do think that continuing to do the focus groups is really important to me. In large part, not because I have a political science-y end to it, but I do think that it is talking to people. One of my big takeaways from the election was like how accurate I felt like the focus groups were. Like how much, I will say, I definitely thought Trump was going to lose by more based on what I was hearing. But like, in terms of the split ticket voting, in terms of the way that so many of the voters that I was talking to either were constitutionally Republican and just couldn't like stand Trump anymore, but like they still thought of themselves as Republicans tribally, like the split ticket voting was the margin in a lot of these states, right? It was people who voted for Joe Biden, but down ticket voted for Republican. It's one of the reasons that Democrats are sort of almost don't feel like they won, because down ticket, things were really bleak.
When you're talking down ticket, I assume you're not talking like local politics. You mean, but like Senate and like House like ticket.
Congress, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Democrats.
Just, like, some of the people I'm talking to at home in like various places, like when they were talking down ticket, is like they had a bunch of people get dinged by bullet party voting that went towards like the feds, and then basically never, and like basically like huge Republic, like long, like 50 years held local Republican seats in like local government got overturned because of like a blue tide for Biden. And it was this kind of a fascinating thing, like town supervisor, for example, getting like where there had been like 45 years of Republican leadership, like all of a sudden it got overturned for Biden. I mean, we all know that those are totally different things. What's interesting is that it's the same election, the same voting booth, and people are going and doing this thing, and like they think that it's the same maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, so actually, a bunch of people in the chat seem to think it's like I'm staticky.
The noise is coming from your end, not from Kate's end. Let me make Kate's voice is very quiet, but there's noise coming from your end. Let me make a little adjustment and see if it fixes it. Well, it made Sarah disappear for a minute, but her noise is gone. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Is that better?
You're very quiet.
Yeah, and you guys seem to be on a delay now.
All right, I'm gonna toggle that sound back on, and and see if that if that helps.
Did you put her on studio sound, Ben?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have her on studio sound without the noise. Can we hear you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
Sorry about that. That was my fault.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't know what kind of fancy whirly gigs you guys
I have no idea what's going on.
I have all the power.
It's true. But so, continue though, Sarah, but like what you were talking about people talking to you about the focus groups that you were doing and like everything else.
Only that I think what I was hearing was correct. Like, I think that it was sort of where people were, which is that they didn't like Donald Trump, but they were kind of on the fence. They probably weren't going to vote for him again, but like, the Democrats, and they like, and you know, and they really, and these are people who are Republicans or who are right-leaning independents, and I think that, you know, what I think about, now people say they can't hear me.
Yeah, you're really faint, but we're going to work with it for now. Like, it'll be fine, but like, continue talking. You were saying that the Democrats seem like you were saying that people would kind of like vote, like it would seem like people are overwhelmingly voting like something like, the Democrats. Bye, Sarah.
No, she'll be back in a sec.
Okay.
All right, so try again. Yeah, so you're now you're the one who's really quiet. I'm going to remove you entirely and bring you back and see if that helps.
I mean, the thing about all of this is that I've always wondered this about elections, which is like something that we didn't bring up with Claudia Dean, but I've always wondered is like, what is the life cycle of studies for like Pew and for focus groups like the type that Sarah does? In my mind, they should be ever present, but it seems like they're only funded whenever there's an election. And so, sorry, I was just like talking to Ben. I was just saying that like all of the work that you do and kind of all of the polls that we focused on so much, I've always wondered like what happens after the election ends? Like what do these people do? Like where do they go? Like what does Nate Silver do? Obviously Nate Silver is just Nate Silver, so whatever. But like what do other people who like do polls for a living decide to do with like a lot of their time and energy? And like what do you do? Like you have such skill and acumen around like these focus groups and asking good questions. It's a waste for you to just kind of sit in a shelf. Like there have to be a million things that you could be doing.
You know what's funny is that people, can you hear me?
No, you're
barely.
You're so quiet. That's so frustrating.
So here's what I want to do, Sarah. Can you, are you on a Mac?
Yep.
can you go into your audio settings?
Yeah.
I think the problem is on your end. Can you go into your audio settings to your sound preferences, find your input volume, and turn that up?
It's in the sound.
I can. It is up pretty high. It is up.
Bring it up further.
For input.
All right, that's input. I can try to do. Let's see, output's up as high as it'll go to.
Yeah, unless you're having trouble hearing us, I'm not worried about output.
Okay, I don't, but I turned everything up as high as it could go.
All right, well that's what we got, people. So turn up your volume so you can hear. Turn up your volume so you can hear Sarah, and Kate and I will speak quietly so we don't blow out your eardrums.
I think it seemed like it was working better before, even though there was a little bit of.
It did. We were having the problem that we're having with you with Kate, and now
Go ahead
Kate
and
sounds fine, and you sound very quiet. But
why don't you turn her off of studio sound so people can hear her better, and I will just go on mute and we'll just do a mute thing.
Yeah, that I'm not sure that matters anymore. It's something's weird. But now you can't hear me? Uh-oh. Now Sarah can't hear us.
I'm gonna take these out.
All right, let's take those out. Yes, Jake Buzzart says if only Taylor Swift were here, she could help fix the sound.
If only Taylor Swift were here, we would probably I'd be making us have a dance party.
Yeah, but if Taylor Swift were here, then we'd be talking about country music that I know nothing about.
But she's not country music anymore, Ben. Really?
Oh, sorry. Well,
she's a pop star. She started off.
I literally wouldn't know her if I tripped over her on the street. I don't think I could pick her out of a lineup.
Okay, well that's fair. Also true of John Legend. Would you trip over John Legend?
So John Legend I would know because I actually know him a little bit. Now we've got Sarah back with a lot of noise.
I like Sarah with a lot of noise rather than no Sarah at all.
So can you hear us, Sarah? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hi. Hello. Give it a second.
We can hear her.
It might happen before, when it was with. Have I mentioned my lobster claw bottle opener? It's a lobster claw and it's a bottle opener. That's all I've got. I don't know. I'm just trying to fill time until Sarah's sound kicks in.
Talk, Sarah.
Us? Sarah? She can't hear us. If she could, she would be talking because I told her to. Anyway. Blink twice. Go like this with your eyeballs.
I don't know. I can't hear you guys, and I have my headphones in, but I can't hear you.
All right, so we're gonna play.
Oh look,
charade.
everybody can hear me. This is great.
Exactly.
I can't hear you. I can just see from your faces and in the chat that everyone can hear me. So good.
All right. We're gonna play charades.
Unbelievable that I can't hear you guys.
All right. Well, okay. How are we going to do this, Kate?
I think that we're going to have to play out our questions. So Sarah, 3 words.
3 words.
Okay, good.
Just drop me. This is too ridiculous.
No, it's a boat. I don't know what I'm doing now. I don't even know what 3 words I'm putting together, but I'm going to come up with them while I do this. A boat. It's a boat. It's going to be on the ocean. It's a boat on the ocean.
This is not a thing I know how to do.
It's a boat on the ocean. It's a boat. boat on the ocean. It's a boat you like canoe. You canoe it. Canoe, canoe, rowing, rowing, rowing.
Let's
Here's
try.
the thing. I don't understand why I can't hear any of you when I could totally hear you before. Like, I just don't understand why this is happening this way.
Oh, we don't either. But that's okay, because we are just going to play with it until it works. I suspect Sarah can hear us now that she's not on screen. This is the Tomas... Oh, you can hear us now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you're faint again. But it's okay.
Better.
If we can hear you and you can hear us, we're going with faint, people. All right. In lieu of sound...
So
meanwhile, back on Earth.
The question, which was basically like, Sarah, what are you going to do?
I'm going to keep trying to save democracy. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to translate what you're saying. I'm going to live transcribe it into the chat. So go ahead.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to do a few things. You're never going to be able to transcribe all this, but I'm going to keep focusing on the bulwark. Right? So, like, there's an idea side of this where somebody's got to push back against an illiberal media on the right that has been totally giving these guys cover. So I'm going to continue to do all the bulwark stuff. We are going to do a bunch of things through Republicans for the rule of law going forward. One of the biggest things, and Ben, and actually Kate, I know that Kate's an expert in like Section 230, but I don't know what other kinds of law she really practices. Kate and I
property
on our own and like learn stuff about each other because I would be infinitely interested, I'm sure. But this is the plan going forward. Is there needs to be like a post-Watergate style set of reforms, right? We have seen all of the places where our democracy is weak. You should not be able to install your kids in the White House and let their spouses run the executive branch. We should probably do something about war powers, considering that we've now had a lunatic running the country. We should do all kinds of things to rein in the executive branch. And I would like there to be a package of reforms early on in the first year, and I'm going to work very hard to advance those things. You should have to release your tax returns so people know if you're in thrall to other countries. And I think that there is the kind of thing you could get bipartisan buy-in for, and somebody needs to be on the right to advance those things. The other thing is, with this Senate being as close as it is, regardless of what happens in Georgia, anything that gets done is going to need Republican votes. And so, it's funny, you guys all think of me as doing the focus groups, but the focus groups were just base-level research to run the kinds of campaigns that I wanted to run. And it was how we figured out what was going to be most persuasive. And so I'm going to continue to do the focus groups, but it really is in service to the larger communications work that I do, which is how do you provide cover for, 4 or 5 Republican senators who you need to pass anything. And so when you say, what are you going to do? I got all kinds of stuff I feel like I need to do going forward. And the question is sort of where I put the most energy.
It's a good answer. The game show. The game show, by the way, if you look at the poll, we have polled what you should do next. And the game show has solidly lost, except in the sense that all of the above, which includes the game show, has won. Daniel, back in your native habitat, the black shirt against the black chair, or it's a kind of dark blue shirt, but it counts. You're good blended in there. What's on your mind?
I'm just curious about your thoughts on the Georgia runoffs, and is there any chance that we'll get Trumpist voters choking on their own garbage? I mean, I think in some ways that's the best possible result, because if Mitch McConnell realizes this is not going to help him maintain power, out goes the stuff about the stop the steal.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's true that Mitch McConnell and Republicans right now are really, really want Joe Biden to be president because they need to. Their best argument, and lots of polling has shown this. Their best argument is that is divided government is good. For whatever reason, lots of Americans believe that to be true, and so they don't like the idea that Lynn Wood is down there saying, don't vote on these corrupt machines, or that Sidney Powell's down there saying, these Republican senators aren't doing enough to support Donald Trump. Like, that's not good for these Republicans. That being said, I do think there's a little too much of a, like, oh, maybe they're just going to eat their own and, like, they're going to go down in flames. Like, I probably don't think that's going to happen. I think that people do like divided government, and despite all of the theatrics, people do think that Biden won, and that they're going to run as a needed check. I don't think that either of the Democratic candidates are particularly good, unfortunately. Not that the Republican candidates are particularly good, but just because Joe Biden won by 10,000 votes, it is still a pretty red state. A lot of the suburban voters that were willing to vote for Joe Biden, they're going to vote for David Perdue. So I'm sorry to report that I am not one who believes that the Democrats have a great shot in Georgia. That being said, can they out-organize the Republicans? Potentially. I mean, I don't know what kind of ground game they're running there, but it is a turnout play. It is not a persuasion play, because I just think that the kinds of voters that would go against Trump are not the same people who will vote against Perdue or Loeffler.
Okay, so I wanna make an optimistic case that I don't necessarily believe, and have you respond to it. So the optimistic case goes, Loeffler, without Trump on the ballot, the race is much more like a 2018 race than a 2020 race. You have highly energized Democratic voters, and you have less energized Republican voters because nobody is as enthusiastic about Mitch McConnell as people are angry at Mitch McConnell, and B, let's face it, the anti-Trump voters are much more, the pro-Trump voters are split, at least to some degree, over the question of how enthusiastic they should be about Loeffler and Perdue, whereas the Democratic voters just want a majority. So if it really is just a turnout game and there's no element of persuasion, why isn't it reasonable to expect that Democratic voters will turn out in a way that looks a lot like 2018, and Republican voters, or at least looks a lot like this year, and Republican voters won't?
Maybe. I just think I think that it's the difference between the composition of the state. Like, if this was Wisconsin, maybe, where you have like a really equal number of Republicans and Democrats, and it kind of, the independents really make it up. Like, Georgia's pretty red, and I saw somebody in the chat say something like, I think in response to me saying that I didn't think they were particularly good candidates, that one was a Jew and one was black. That is not what I'm saying. But they are.
Although one is a Jew and one is black.
That is true. That would not be why I said that they are not good candidates. And I'll tell you, Amy McGrath is somebody the Democrats decided to spend a ton of money. You may remember last time I was on the show, I talked about how bad an idea I thought that was.
You were right on that.
I was. And the thing is that I think that people get excited in their Twitter bubbles and other things, and they forget that these states are very conservative, and that when you have candidates, like John Ossoff in particular, is a very, like, he didn't win an early congressional race. Like, he's too liberal for that state. And like, that is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that in Georgia, you needed to recruit Connor Lambs. Like, you needed centrist candidates who, could pick up the suburban voters, but these folks won't.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. I hadn't thought about that. Do we want to rapture Tomas in enough to give him time for his camera to catch up and put in Joel the Nuge to ask this question in between?
Tomas has been here a while, and
Can he hear us?
I have faith that he can hear us.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Great.
Yeah,
Hi.
well,
And I'm going to take a picture of his background for Room Raider.
Yeah, where are you, Tomas?
in my farm.
You're still there. It's such a lovely background. It's like your home is lovely. I see all different angles of it all the time. Oh, this is so nice.
Pretty
Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, my original question for Sarah was, so what have your focus groups been telling you since the election? But since you said you are doing focus groups, then well, what sense do you get from any research? But then I was going to also propose a scenario by which maybe the election in Georgia is not that important immediately, because even if Loeffler, which would be the proper pronunciation of Spooner, which is what her name means, and Purdue should be, by all accounts, after the restoration of rule of law on the 20th of January, be indicted for insider trading. After which, the governor has an opportunity, in fact, to appoint 2 senators from Georgia. And after having been shat upon by Trump and the Trumpistas,
Just
would
threw up
probably,
or peed or did something in the.
one would hope, appoint centrist Republicans. But that's it.
All right. What do you make of that, Sarah?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it sort of goes to the entire question, and maybe you guys have an opinion on this. I'd be interested if you do. As to, I mean, the Biden administration does not look like it is wants to turn around and prosecute a bunch of people from the Trump administration. I feel like they are trying to engage in a way that is as post-partisan and as an extending an olive branch as could possibly happen. I think turning around and prosecuting the 2 new senators from Georgia, I just don't know that I see it happening. I understand that everybody wants a tremendous amount of accountability, and there should be accountability. But it's one of the reasons I'm really focused on laws that you can pass that you can get buy-in for, that keep these things from ever happening again. Because we really do, it runs through our country, and I think it runs through Biden in particular, in a way where people are not, they just do not like the idea of prosecuting, especially former presidents or their families. And I think when it comes to the Senate, it's probably how they're going to feel too. But that's just my gut. I don't know for sure. What do you guys think?
I think a case on. First of all, I think you're right that there is no reason to think the Biden administration is going to come in with a bloodlust for prosecuting senior Republicans, particularly not, relatively, that said, also insider trading cases are notoriously difficult to make because you have to show not merely that you have to show beyond a reasonable doubt, not merely that there was a coincidence in time, but that the coincidence in time was causally related to the reason the stock was purchased when it was. And that is super hard to do. That said, it does happen sometimes, and I can't imagine that Biden would stand in the way of it. So the question is, how bad are the facts for Purdue and Loeffler? They keep getting worse. But I don't think you should ever plan your politics around the criminal law, is what I think. I think, you got to beat them. And if you don't beat them, you got to accept that you're going to have a 48 member minority. And that's going to be the first 2 years, which means you're going to be playing a game of Mother May I with Mitch McConnell the whole way through. And that's, I don't like that, but I do think it's very likely to be our reality.
I would just agree with that completely. And I also think that like there's just, I think that people think that it's stocks and buying stocks, like it's much less of a smoking gun than people think it is, always. Like, and it's like a very hard thing to like prove evidence for. But we have Joel here. Hi, Joel.
But before we let Joel ask his question, we have to say you haven't been on the show since the latest installment of Joel Buys Wine for Kate and Ben showed up at our respective houses.
So lovely.
Well, thank you. It was I have not I have drunk most of the Shiraz, but I have not yet opened the other bottle. So, but thank you.
Same.
The floor is yours.
The Syrah was amazing. I loved it.
At some point.
Sorry?
Yeah. Tasting notes.
I would love to hear tasting notes at some point.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I had two questions. One for Sarah. In the footage from the recent rally in Washington, there was some chanting of, destroy the GOP, which seemed to really be gathering some steam. And it really caught my attention as a very interesting pivot. And are you all sort of constructing a strategy for attending to that? So that's question one. And question two is, Madam Kate, I would like to get my daughter a clamming shovel for Christmas. What am I looking
my God.
for?
Oh, I will totally hook you up with that. But first, Sarah, sorry.
Two very different questions.
Yes.
Look, this is exactly where we were headed, this burn down the GOP thing. I mean, look, Donald Trump is attacking basically anybody who is obeying the law around the election as a rhino. There is, where do people put their anger around Trump? Like, they're going to direct it at people like Kemp and like Ducey, and what they see as the non-MAGA establishment GOP. And this is when I think I was talking about this earlier. Maybe we were having audio trouble, so I didn't quite get the thought out. But I do think our focus, right? So my focus in this election was to think about how do you peel off 4% of sort of right-leaning independents, Republican voters, people who voted for Trump in 2016. How do you just move those and create net voters so that they vote for Joe Biden? And so I always say this, I did a lot of work around gay marriage and LGBT rights, and people were always like, well, how are you going to convince all these people, that, and I was always like, you don't have to convince everybody. To convince victories in the margins, you have to convince 2-3%. That's how you pass a bill. And it's the same way now where I'm thinking a lot around, okay, well, how do you wedge off? Right, so a lot of these Republican voters in the suburbs, like, they're small business owners. They just don't like Democrats for how much red tape and regulation, and and frankly, that's I can relate to that. But they look at people not abiding the results of the election, or they watch what's going on in D.C. and they think, who are these crazy people? They don't seem like people, I belong in the same political party with, and I do think that figuring out how to sort of wedge some of the traditional GOP voters away from what is a MAGA sort of cult of personality. That is a future way to win elections. I think the question is whether or not the Democratic Party wants to pick those people up. Joe Biden very much did, and in 2018 the Democrats very much did. They made an absolute run for sort of wedging off those suburban voters, and they've been having a lot of luck. And so I think the question is how do you accelerate that suburban trend? And I think that is that is the essence of a lot of the work that we do, is how do you continue to peel those people off? Yeah.
So, Kate, what's the answer to the clamming shovel question?
I know one's going to want this, but it depends on where you're clamming. It's a different type of rake. If you're clamming quahogs versus clamming kind of like soft shell clams, which are more prevalent in Rhode Island. And so I have to kind of like, I know that Joel's daughter just moved to Rhode Island. So that's kind of, I have to kind of do a little bit of research. I've never clammed in Rhode Island. I've only done it in Cape Cod. And so, but like you'd be surprised actually. So like quahogs are like, you're kind of, if you've watched Family Guy, it's Quahog, Rhode Island, and it's like Quahog, and they're just like these round clams. They feel like stones when you hit them with a rake, and your rake is like basically four 4-inch long knives that are like dragging through the mud and the muck, and that's how you kind of like dig clams. And in other places, it's different. Like you dig them based on like little holes that pop up, and then you like dig where the holes are and you find clams. And so it's like a different type of, and that's a different type of clam. But like all this is to say, I don't know. It's a really fun hobby, and I'm going to have a lot of fun figuring this out for Joel. Like I like actually like will take this mantle up proudly. I like love this idea. My family has like bought each other like 6 or 7 different types of like clamming and oystering like equipment over like my dad had like a whole mythology around leaving the ribbons on the clamming rake that I bought him, that he thought that it gave him good luck and got more clams. And so like for like literally 10 years the ribbons on this like mucky clamming rake stayed on. They're actually I think maybe still on the rake. But anyways, it's a fun question, and so I'm excited.
All right. Adam R. I'm not seeming to be able to bring you on screen, but you're audible, and you get the last question before I have a very important announcement.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, how do Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, that group stay in the same party as Blackburn, Kelly Loeffler, and Ted Cruz after this? Is there a chance of an R to D flip in 2021? Or is it more likely that Manchin could flip to the GOP?
No, I don't think Manchin will flip to the GOP. I think it's more likely that Murkowski flips to independent.
I think it's more likely that Murkowski flips to independent too. Say more about that though, Lee. Say more about that. I'd be interested to hear your rationale.
Well, look, if you're Lisa Murkowski, she's been pretty outspoken, and Donald Trump has attacked her. Like Donald Trump has said he's going to primary her. And the thing about Murkowski, and this is what I love Lisa Murkowski so much, because she lost a Republican primary, okay? And then she won as an independent, having people write in her name, the name Murkowski.
Was this in 2008? This is 2008. Was this in 2008? Yeah.
Yeah, so the first time. So
first time.
Yeah.
You
and so
have to remind people who her dad is, though.
Yeah, is he governor of Alaska, or was he a
senator? He was governor
Frank Murasker and a senator for a period of time. Or, yeah, right?
Senator he was the congressman, I think.
Yeah. And I think he was briefly like mayor of Anchorage. But this is to say that Frank Murkowski was like a man in GOP politics. And so like when she was primaried, it wasn't crazy that she went for it anyway.
No, well, not crazy because she won, and she won as a write-in candidate. And I think that's why I think Donald Trump misunderstands Alaska a little bit if he thinks he can just like tweet about her. And she has an enormous amount of leverage in this Senate, like people like she and Manchin and Collins. But like, if Donald Trump wants to go out there and attack her, that's just like a massive mistake. That's a massive political blunder, and she should make them work for it. Like I think she's appalled by what's happening right now. She basically wants to do energy policy and like help Alaskans and like small businesses. Like she's just like an old school Republican. She's socially very moderate, and she certainly hates what Donald Trump is doing. So I actually think Susan Collins is sort of different because the Dems came for her so hard that she's not interested in like helping Democrats.
And because she and McConnell are very close.
They are.
He has been extremely good to her, and he knows how to take care of that flank of his party, and he's done a very effective job at it.
Yeah. So anyway, but I don't Manchin. I think there's no. Why would you flip when your party's in power and you have all the power? Like literally, people will be feting him left and right to get him on board with stuff.
To be fair, Bernie Sanders did that in Vermont. Like, it was crazy, but it was supposedly like a move of principle. So,
Well, but no, in Manchin's case, the argument would be if you have a 50-50 Senate. I guess it's not if you have a 50-50 Senate, because then he gets a chairmanship either way.
Right.
But you could imagine a situation in which the Democrats have 48 or 49 seats, and so you're in the minority, or you're a committee chairman if you give McConnell an extra vote. I don't know. Doesn't seem crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
We got to leave it there.
What was your last little bit of news?
I have a bit of news.
Is it about pineapples?
No, as we have been talking, it has been announced that John le Carré has passed away at 89. And so on Tuesday, in memoriam for John le Carré, Pete Strzok is joining the show to talk about counterintelligence in literature. We are not going to talk about contemporary affairs. We're going to talk about Bill Hayden. We're going to talk about Seamus Lemus. We're going to talk about all kinds of great spy literature and what it gets right and what it gets wrong. And that'll be Tuesday. And tomorrow we have Asha Rangappa joining us. I believe we will also have Kevin Cruz this week. And
Susan Landau.
And Susan Landau. And we're working on some more. So stick with us. That'll all be 22 hours and 55 minutes from now. I apologize for the audio issues today. I'm going to send a little note to Crowdcast about it. But by the time we launch the game show with Sarah and Tim, Alec Lemus, thank you, Mike Godwin.
Could I be Vanna White? Could I design a robot to be Vanna White?
We will do our own fun thing. We do not need
Oh, okay.
to be part
Okay, so we're doing our own fun thing, Ben. I'm not gonna be a Vanna White robot. I'm gonna do my own fun thing.
I just didn't think it was kind of up your alley. I was trying to be respectful of everybody's desires.
I do hate fun, as 262 episodes can attest to.
Sarah, if you want to be part of the game show, totally going to happen. Until then, we don't have fun anymore. But in our own way, we all have zip-up warm things, except me. I have a dog shirt.
You wore a dog shirt today.
I wore a dog shirt today, and you didn't. We will see you tomorrow, folks. Sarah, it's great to see your face.
Sarah,
and hear your voice,
lovely
if only very quietly.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either, but it was still great to hang out with you. It was so great. It was I was like, oh, I really want to see Sarah and spend Sunday with Sarah. So thank you for coming on. It was great.